Good afternoon. Today is Monday, March 30th, and this is a special edition of our Charles County Government Update by YouTube and podcast. Today I'm joined by Commissioner President Ruben Collins. He's joining us by phone as we practice our stay-at-home orders and social distancing. We want to make sure we're modeling that as a government as well. Commissioner Collins, thank you for joining us under these extraordinary circumstances. We appreciate it.
It's no problem at all. I mean, all of us are going through these very rough times together.
Absolutely. So I want to start with the governor's stay-at-home order that was announced earlier today. What does that actually mean for our public, and should residents be concerned? Should they be changing their behavior? I know earlier I read directly from that order about staying home except for essential trips and things of that nature, but can you elaborate from your perspective locally what, if anything, we should be doing differently?
I think, if anything else, I think the governor's initiative is really stressing the importance of following the very basic policies and procedures that have been in place dating back to March 16th with his original state mandated order. At the end of the day, what we need to be vigilant about is a couple of points. First off, please don't panic. I mean, we are going through this together as a community. We are going through this together as a nation. And so many of the things that create anxiety for us as Charles County residents is no different than any of the residents that exist in the United States of America. So the first thing is, please don't panic. Also recognize that this order coming from the state is re-emphasizing what has already been in place. Very simple things like making you aware that you can still get groceries, medications, you can care for your pets, you can check on your loved ones. All of these things remain intact. Essential businesses remain open. The purpose of this order is to prevent, more than anything else, people from gathering in groups beyond 10 for socializing purposes, and for any purpose for that matter. And I want to make that very clear as well. We have to be vigilant, because I think what the governor is responding to is a few incidents throughout the state where people simply did not respond to the need of socializing in groups beyond 10 people.
Well, I know that we've had warmer weather in the forecast, and people have been getting outdoors to enjoy the spring air and get fresh air, but part of the issue has been that they're doing that in groups out in our parks and our open spaces and other areas where they feel that they're generally safe. And so what would you say to those people who have been doing that, and how should we comply with the governor's order moving forward? What do people need to know?
I think, again, we need to be very consistent in how we respond to these very, very detailed orders coming from the state. Limit any activities where people are socializing, to 10 people or less. And I would even argue even beyond that, that don't necessarily conclude that, okay, 10 people is okay. Try to minimize any activities where, you're creating a social group, of more than 3 or more people, honestly. I think we need to look at it from that perspective. I think, again, the governor is trying to emphasize to Maryland residents the importance of really abiding by the very particular elements of his original order on March the 16th. We have to be vigilant in following, the very nature and importance of social distancing in order for us to get a hold on the impact of this overall pandemic. And so that would be the message that I would really present to our public. But again, there's no need to panic. There's no need to feel that somehow this order is creating an opportunity where it's necessary for you to, go en masse to, your grocery stores and try to do these things within the next couple of hours because you've heard 8 o'clock is a cutoff date. This is really just re-emphasizing the importance of the governor's original order. And I would just say, to the extent that we can continue to follow the governor's order, that will be the thing that will ensure the best outcome for us as Charles County residents.
Thank you for making that point, Commissioner President. I would like to just remind people that locally we have 33 confirmed cases, which is double the number we had just 3 days ago, and that reflects what's happening statewide and in our national capital region, where we've seen a doubling of cases over the last 3 days. So this is really just an effort to continue ways that we can stop the spread of the virus, because we know it's being transmitted in the community now, and the only way to prevent that and slow it down is by not gathering together socially in order to flatten that curve. So I know that you have been in conversations with our regional elected leaders. The Metropolitan Washington Council of Governments is preparing to announce tomorrow a similar message throughout the national capital region. I know Governor Northam this afternoon is sharing a similar message with their state. So how are your colleagues across the region as the chief elected officials planning to encourage this message beyond our borders?
What's interesting, and I think hopefully from the perspective of Charles County residents, what is factual more than anything else is the consistency that you're seeing in the overall message coming from jurisdictions that are very diverse, that are a part of the entire Washington metropolitan area. If you really focus on what you're hearing these elected officials emphasize, everyone is emphasizing virtually the same thing, because at the end of the day, there's a recognition that in terms of messaging and in terms of factual information, everything begins and ends with the Center for Disease Control. And that's the bottom line. And we've committed ourselves as a county to follow, the initiatives and information coming directly from the CDC, and that information is filtered to us through the state of Maryland, the state of Maryland Health Department, through our health department, and then, of course, Charles County government. So you will see, and I think that's the thing that's encouraging for me when you look across the board with the response coming from the various jurisdictions throughout, this area. There's a recognition that this is not a time for people to kind of go on their own tangent. This is not a time for communities to come up with their own plans, because at the end of the day, we're dealing with very limited information, and we want to be driven by information that are coming directly from experts.
Thank you. That is so true. The more we can speak with one voice and one message, I think the public will start to understand not only that this public health emergency is very serious, but also that there are collectively some simple proactive steps that we can take together that will help us get to where we need to go. And so with that in mind, I want to wrap this conversation up by saying that the public health emergency, many are saying, could last several more weeks, if not longer. So what is the most important thing that you would want our residents to know as our Commissioner President as we move forward and this situation, of course, continues to evolve in maybe even unpredictable ways?
Again, we need to be vigilant. We need to continue to follow the leads from the actual experts in how we respond to this. I know it's easier to say than to actually follow, but please, as a community, let's not panic because we're going through this together. And if we actually follow the responses that have been put in place by, the CDC in particular, we will get through this. But there's absolutely no doubt we are dealing with, very precarious times. This is unprecedented in a lot of ways. And so there's no way to sugarcoat that reality. But at the same time, when we work together as citizens, when we work together, when we're responsible and when we're not saying, okay, I'm going to do my own thing. I don't really care what the CDC or the state of Maryland is telling me, or Charles County for that matter, then guess what? We will be in a better position to get through this. So I just want to close by again emphasizing how important it is. If you want to stay updated, please continue to follow information coming directly from CharlesCountyMD.gov, because CharlesCountyMD.gov is giving you information coming directly from the Center for Disease Control as well as the state of Maryland and the state of Maryland Health Department.
Commissioner President, thank you for your time. I think the takeaway here is our community's health and safety remains our top priority. Working together, we will get through this. Appreciate your taking the time to talk with us about how we're going to get through it together, and stay safe.
Thank you.
All right, Charles County, thank you for listening. We'll continue to provide you daily updates. Follow us on CharlesCountyMD.gov.